I have a question for you, and if you agree, I'd like you to put your hand up. Would you like to work for a robot boss? Okay. How about a robot coworker instead? The fact that a few people over there are putting their hands up means you guys either must really love change or you really don't like the people you work with. When I asked this question, millennials were twice as likely to trust working with a robot than a baby boomer. And it's no surprise that the younger generation is more comfortable with technology. I've seen this firsthand with my nephew, who's so comfortable using YouTube on the iPad. My nephew, who's 5 years old, just started elementary school. And by the time he graduates high school in 2030, it's estimated that 85% of the jobs in the future are going to be new. And if that seems unrealistic, let's rewind back 20 years ago when I was in elementary school. Back then, Google was just getting started. And now we take Google Maps and email for granted. Even 10 years ago, around 2008, 2009, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat didn't exist. Neither did WhatsApp or Uber. When we were younger, we're told, don't talk to strangers and don't get into their cars. But now we're using Uber to literally summon strangers' cars with our phones. Our education has not caught up with the new world. The image on the left is a lecture in the mid-14th century. The image on the right is a typical lecture today. As you can see, the teacher is teaching and the students are sleeping. Not much has changed. The school system that we know of as today was created 125 years ago by a committee that decided to standardize teaching. And they did that by thinking that they could divide instruction by age, ability, and subject matter. And it made sense because back then, the more information you knew, the better off and more successful you're going to be. And the only way to get that was through the teacher. Books and knowledge was rare. That was before. Now, we have everything available at our fingertips. Memorization is obsolete, yet we're still forcing students to memorize. At school, we're evaluated based on standardized tests, how well we memorize, and how well we do it alone. At work, we're evaluated based on work we produce, how well we access information, and how well we work with others, who we often need to get the job done. So why is it we're evaluating students based on situations that they're not going to experience in the future? When I was in school, I remember I was studying and cramming for exams and tests, making sure I remember that one particular formula that I'm pretty sure is going to be on that test. And the day after, I forgot it. I basically built up disposable knowledge that I threw away. Lawrenceville School wanted to test this. So at the end of the school semester, they took a group of students, gave them a test. They got a B+, which is fine. After summer break, they came back and tested the same group of students. They went from a B+ to an F. They failed. We need to realize that we're preparing children for tests, not life. And if you disagree with that statement, why is it that so many adults who've passed high school math still fall into credit card debt? It's not the knowledge, they know plus and minus, it's application of it. We're told that you need to remember the quadratic formula or we'll get into trouble. It's because we're told the story from the past generation, which was you need to study, memorize, so you can pass the test, so you can get into college, so you can get a good job. And that's the only way to go that route. But now, Google, Apple, and a host of other companies are removing college as a requirement to get a job. With the rising cost of tuition and debt, you have to ask yourself, if you're a parent, do you even bother saving for your child's education if college isn't going to be a requirement anymore? Because after all, we're talking about the future of jobs, right? And when we're talking about the future of jobs, we know the future of jobs. Robots are going to take over. The fear of automation it's not new. As history has shown us, when there has been a technological disruption, more jobs has been created in the Industrial Revolution than jobs are lost. But is that going to be the same for our future? Well, we know the quality of life is getting better, but what about our jobs? Are we going to get useless? Are we going to be useless without anything? It depends on the task and skills. Let's say you're good at math and you work in accounting or insurance. Well, an artificial intelligence was created that replaced 34 employees. If you are good at writing, well, Associated Press created robot journalists to write their own stories. If you're good at seeing, an artificial intelligence was created to detect a rare form of leukemia after scanning 20 million studies. 20 million. That's something we can't do in one sitting. Okay, but we know computers are good at math and good at writing and good at seeing, but we're humans, we got our hands. We're good, right? Well, we can see where this is going. Sam is a semi-automated mason that can lay 3,000 bricks a day, which is 5 times the productivity for half the cost. Or we can 3D print a house in 1 day. If you take a step back on a construction site, you can take a drone that can scan the ground while self-driving diggers can level the land semi-autonomously. So what's there left for us to do? Just sit there and look pretty? Even that is being disrupted. Meet Shudu, the world's first digital supermodel. That's right, digital. She doesn't exist. As machines are now able to listen, to talk, to think, artificial intelligence and automation are the new buzzwords. However, we need to realize that we're not in a Terminator-like scenario yet. We're in a new state. That's for granted. The Japanese word henko, which means entering a new state without going back to the original, is where we're in because we're not getting any less technical as a society. In 5 years, it's predicted that 75 million jobs are going to be displaced. And by 10 years, that is going to balloon to 400 million. That's 15% of the global workforce. Is anyone a little freaked out by this? You're not alone, because there are good news, and I'm going to get to that. So how do we prepare for something like this? Well, for one, we need to understand that we need to have industry knowledge. We need to have a foundational knowledge that's given. And we need to be more digitally literate, because in the future, it isn't going to be banking online and banking in person, it's just going to be banking. It isn't going to be shopping online and shopping in person, it's just going to be shopping. At school, the way we prepare for the future, for some schools at least, they focus on STEAM education. STEAM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. But when you ask employers, 93% of them prefer soft skills to what major someone has. And trust me, I come from an engineering background. I used to be an architect before. And I've hired, so I realize the importance of soft skills. We need to go from prioritizing knowledge to prioritizing skills. Because when it comes to knowledge, we know that machines can remember more information than we can. But when it comes to skills, we can do some stuff that machines can't. But what skills? When it comes to skills, there are a handful of skills that's going to give us a leg up. In the human-machine age, the augmented age, there are certain skills that's going to give us a leg up. Through my research, it's what I call the augmented advantage. In the augmented age, there are 3 skills that's going to put us ahead of machines. So what are they? It's play, problems, and people. Play. Play is all about creativity, adaptation, learning new behaviors. Not just play, but deliberate play. Having like the childlike wonder, curiosity, inquiry. This is a painting of a portrait of Edmond de Bellamy, which is going to be auctioned off next week. And just like any painting, on the bottom right corner, it's signed by the artist. But when you zoom in, you realize it's not a name, but a formula? That's right. Because this painting was created by an artificial intelligence system. While an AI is able to create a painting like this, it was only able to do so by analyzing 15,000 other paintings. So it can't create something new, but just something that's an iterative of what's been done before. So when we focus on play, we can build and create things that machines can't. That is the importance of the first P, play. The second P is all about problems, problem solving, systems thinking, reasoning, weighing decisions, connecting dots. Malcolm Gladwell talks about the puzzle and a mystery. A puzzle is something that can be solved. It has answers. A mystery is something that can't. It can only be framed. To better illustrate mystery, imagine you're in a self-driving car. It's dark, it's raining. It makes a turn, and suddenly on the street, on one side there are children, and on the other there are teenagers. Who should the car save? The children or the teenagers? Or should it save both and sacrifice yourself? What's the right answer? There isn't one. While machines are able to solve simple problems, 2 + 2 = 4, it can't solve complex situations. And that's where the importance of the second P, problems, comes into play. The third P is people. It's all about connecting with people, having empathy, leadership. Years ago, I was in South America, and I helped rebuild an earthquakes-devastated city in Peru. While I was there, I was fortunate enough to build a house for Carmela over here. And while a machine now is able to 3D print a house in one day, when it took us 3 weeks, it can't look at someone like Carmela in her eye and say, I know you lost your family. It's going to be okay. I'm here for you. These 3 Ps, play, problems, and people, are important. And it's going to get us to the next step. But who's going to teach it to us? Schools, right? Well, let me ask you, who's either in school or has children in school? Quite a few people. Don't you find it's odd that for some students, they're able to remember something they're really interested in, like 250 types of Pokemon, than the basic history lesson from this morning? Isn't that weird? When students are interested and engaged in a topic, they're much more able to remember it than something that they're force-fed. And what we need to realize is they're force-fed subject that was deemed important 125 years ago, around the Industrial Revolution. For us, we need to prep for the next revolution, the augmented revolution. And while most schools aren't teaching this, there are some that are. Schools like High Tech High, which was started in 2000 in San Diego. And while it looks like a typical school, upon closer examination, you realize that there are no bells, no class period, no subjects or tests. Their tests are group projects, and they displayed publicly. The teachers aren't teachers, they're more like coaches, and they're free to coach however way they want. It's going from a teacher-centered to a student-centered, going from knowledge to prioritizing skills. And a lot of people are slowly starting to take notice. Recently, notable figures like Elon Musk pulled his sons out of traditional schools and created his own schools that focuses on the 3 Ps, because he wants to prep his sons for the jobs of tomorrow. When it comes to education in our life, it used to be that you'd learn once and you apply for the rest of your career. And that used to work. But now, as so many things are changing, we need to constantly be leveling up. We need to relearn and relearn. And when we're learning, we need to ask ourselves, whether it's at work or at school, we need to ask ourselves, are we learning to compete against machines, or are we learning to work with machines? Because when we learn to work with, to improve our productivity, we're much better off. Now, I started off by asking you if you'd like to work with a robot coworker. Many of you said no. But it turns out you have been working with a robot coworker for the past few years. Your phone. Your phone has phone numbers of your friends. It has photos and videos of your loved ones. When we lose our phone, we feel like we lost a part of ourselves. If you think about it, you're cyborgs. Part machine, part human. At home, we also have a robot coworker that's been washing dishes for us that we call the dishwasher. And we've been doing that since the 1960s. And at work, this is where it hits us the hardest. Because when it starts to replace us, we begin to question our future. As job profiles with repetitive activities are going to decline. When I mentioned before that 75 million jobs are going to be displaced in 5 years, the good news is 100 million is going to be new. So there are going to be jobs existing, but it's going to require a new set of skills. Now, when you come back to education and learning, we need to realize that we need to evolve our education for the future, not what's been dictated by the past. And when we do, we can make sure that all of us here are along for the ride up. Thank you.